Senator Hunt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Nebraskans. I was going to stay out of this debate, but as I was listening, as usual, you just start thinking as you're listening to people, and you think of some things to contribute. And I also agree with what Senator Armendariz said. It's important to stand up and sort of speak to your constituents, especially on issues like this that, have to do with the system that their leaders occupy, who they elect. So yeah, I wanted to get up and speak to that. I heard proponents of this legislative resolution talking about how we need stronger lawmakers, we need stronger state senators, we need more oversight, so we need to attract and retain legislators, and LR 25C is going to help us do that. Colleagues, stronger legislative oversight, stronger lawmakers, that comes from courage, not from a paycheck. That comes from the integrity that you're willing to have to stand up for your constituents, for your branch of government, for your working committee, and for your colleagues, instead of rolling over for the Attorney General, for the governor. Pay raises are not going to magically make any lawmakers fight executive overreach. That takes leadership and courage. And right now, many of the people who are asking for a raise, asking for health care, asking for benefits that they came in here knowing they weren't going to get, have not shown that they're willing to fight for Nebraskans. If the legislature wants to be treated like a professional body, if we want to further professionalize the work that we do in here as citizen legislators, it means we should start acting like one. It means standing up to the governor when he oversteps, not rolling over for him. It means actually prioritizing the needs of working Nebraskans, not just our own salaries. You can't say that our legislature needs to be professionalized when so many of us are focused more on culture wars than on actual governance. Because you know what? It's a lot easier to stand up here year after year and say trans kids are the problem, because that's a lot easier than actually solving the problems people sent here to do. Public trust is so low. The reason we don't get pay raises when it is on the ballot and public trust is so low is because we prioritize partisan fights and special interests over Nebraskans, and a pay raise is not going to fix that. If legislators were also fighting for pay raises for all workers, this bill might make sense. But we're not doing that. The same lawmakers that are standing up saying we deserve a pay raise, we deserve benefits, are the ones who are turning their back on the will of the people who said that they wanted that at the ballot in November. Prioritizing a bill to undo the will of the people, as they stated in November. You can't demand a raise while failing to do the job Nebraskans sent you to do. This debate isn't just about whether senators get a raise or get health care, or if we form a commission where these supposedly independent, completely non-influenced, independent, nonpartisan people supposedly are going to decide what we should be paid. It's not about that. It's about who in this body is willing to fight for Nebraskans because they have the courage, and who only fights when it benefits themselves. You can't say lawmakers deserve a raise and then vote against minimum wage increases, paid leave, and fair pay protections for actual working families. Legislators work really hard. All of it, I'm not going to stand up here and say that. How humiliating, how embarrassing to debase myself and stand up here and say to the working people of Nebraska how hard I work for them. When they look at the debt that they have, they look at their access to health care, they look at our federal government being decimated, and then Nebraska's legislature trying to play Doge on their own and cutting the same services on a bill that we have coming up next in the queue. So how am I going to stand up and assure Nebraskans that I'm working so hard that I deserve a raise when they're working harder than any of us, and they're the ones who are seeing the most hit to their pocketbooks? Some of the loudest voices pushing for this raise have done nothing to protect those workers or to protect this institution from executive overreach. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hunt, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Senator Frederickson, for stopping by with some inspiration and a pep talk before. It's cracking me up. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to do what some of you are doing and embarrass myself by talking about how much I deserve to get paid and how hard I work as a state senator. And I feel like I kind of sound like a Republican here, but I don't really think that we should be judged by how hard we work. I think we should be judged by what we do and what we actually accomplish in here and what the quality of life is for the people of Nebraska, not by how hard we argue or how late we stay listening to constituents testify against our horrible bills. Those things in itself are not accomplishments, and they do not make us worthy of more compensation from the taxpayers of Nebraska. Legislators work hard, but so do grocery clerks, so do child care workers, so do teachers, so do retail employees. And they deserve fair wages and benefits too. And at the ballot last November, they said we want paid leave and we want a higher minimum wage. And as stewards of the taxpayers, that's what we need to deliver to them. Instead, what do we have coming through this legislature? We have bills to hamstring paid leave by putting restrictions on it that were not in the ballot initiative that passed. We have bills to say that people 19 and under from Senator Raybould are going to get paid less than other folks just because they're younger, and because some people say that folks who voted for the minimum wage initiative didn't know what they were voting on, that the voters were too stupid to get it. I think, colleagues, that when it's time for us to get a raise in the Nebraska legislature, we'll know it. I think it'll be a time when we have the funds in our state because we aren't running at a deficit. I think it'll be a time when we have high approval ratings because people's quality of life is increasing, because people are going through their days not thinking about how they're going to have to stay here till 10, 11, 12 p.m. testifying on a bill to take their rights away, but maybe because it's a time when they don't think about government at all, when they can go through their day and they know that the federal government's not coming for them in their paycheck, the Nebraska legislature's not coming for them in their paycheck, and because of that, they're generally happy with the work we're doing. And when that day comes, colleagues, and we can have a serious conversation about what we deserve to be compensated for this work, I think we will know when that day is. If we're serious about this, we need to show the same energy in protecting the wages for all workers in Nebraska, not just our own. And I'm not saying legislators don't deserve fair compensation. And frankly, as I've said on the record many times, I'm not saying that what we get right now is fair. I'm saying what we get right now is what we knew we were going to get. And as citizen legislators, it's what we came in here expecting and knowing we were going to be entitled to. I'm saying if you're willing to fight for better pay and compensation and benefits for yourself, colleagues, you better be willing to fight just as hard for the people who sent you here. I also take issue with the argument that raising legislative pay would necessarily result in a more representative government. I hope it would. I support the concept of increasing pay because I understand the argument that it incentivizes and it makes it possible for more people to run. But who do we actually think will run if something like this passes? Raising salaries doesn't magically mean that more working class people get elected. It just means that people in power get paid more. You only have to look at other local races like, well, like Congress too, but like city council races. Working class people run, grassroots candidates run, and in the end of the day, they do not win no matter what the pay is. The real barriers to participation, colleagues, aren't just the salary. It's the lack of affordable child care, the lack of paid leave, the lack of fair wages in Nebraska, and an economy where people can barely make ends meet. And when we fix those problems, we will see more people able to run for office and serve, and we will see also an electorate that has trust in their government and trust in their elected officials to the degree that they support a higher paycheck for us. The legislature was designed to be a part-time citizen-led body. We don't take the paycheck, we don't take the job for a paycheck, we take it to serve. And if pay is really the concern, why aren't we fighting to make sure that all Nebraskans get paid fairly first? Thank you, Mr. President.